Using config drift, you're going to manage configurations of your network devices by taking configuration snapshots on a regular basis and comparing them to your default snapshot. Then you can simply determine whether the default snapshot needs to be updated to the current configuration or whether the network device needs to be remediated. In this case, we have a set of different devices. Snapshots have been taken. This particular one shows that there has been a change between the most recent snapshot and the default. We take a look at the comparison between the two here. The default with the thumbs up on the left, the current configuration on the right. We identify the change and we see that there's been loopback interface changes. We would either set this new configuration as the default, or we would go back into the model editor, or appropriate functionality for remediation actions can be taken. So you do comparisons, you keep track of the snapshots over time, you can add different names for it, and in this way manage the configuration or network state on an ongoing basis for your network, and then use the model editor as a means of remediation. Now let's back up a little bit. Let's clear this particular device pane that we have. Let's actually take all the devices out of the current organization and delete them. Now, when you start with a new organization or a new setup, what you're going to do is you're going to add devices one by one as appropriate, and then go enter in the credential information, username, password, ports, protocol selection, etc. Or, alternatively, let's go ahead and get rid of this one, you can import them. And the way that you import them is simply using a CSV template, an Excel spreadsheet essentially with that information, or if you've already got this information input in the model editor, you can just update from the existing model editor. And this has pulled the organization data from the model editor of all the different devices that exist there. So what we would do, as we started using config drift in this case, would be to select all the devices that have been pulled over in the model editor, and you can take a look at any one of them and see that it pulled over the IP address, username, password, etc. Let's go ahead and close that again. We would select all the devices and take snapshots here. You can see that it's in process currently, and as each snapshot completes, you'll see the status of that snapshot in the middle of the Device Explorer pane. Now, since we just imported these device configurations into config drift, these first set of snapshots we've taken became the default snapshot, and not surprisingly, there's no changes between them. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to move over into the model editor quickly, make a change on the LAX VHE01 node, and then we'll come back and take a snapshot here and see how we would identify the change as well as the different operations or choices we have to make. Now, let's go ahead and take another set of snapshots. You'll notice that the dates have updated here as new snapshots have been taken, and you'll notice that the LAX VHE01 device shows a change in configuration from the default snapshot. We'll double-click on that entry, and it'll immediately open a comparison window between that default snapshot on the left, with the thumbs up, and the snapshot I just took on the right. You'll notice there's a set of 1 and 1 in total changes between the two, and by clicking the right arrow, it'll load up that particular change and show it. You'll see here I've added an interface loopback without an IP address, and that change from the default is now reflected in green. Now, I can make that particular snapshot the default snapshot moving forward, or I can just mark it as a change. Let's do both. I'll first go to my list of snapshots, and remember this one's the 202 snapshot. There's my 202 snapshot. I'm going to come over here and add a description. That description is new loopback 789. I'll save it. Now here I have that snapshot highlighted, and you'll notice on the right-hand side of the entries I can look at that snapshot, I can compare it to the default, I can delete it, add the annotation which I've just done, or set it as default. I'm going to set that snapshot as the default because that current configuration is the one that I want to be my default moving forward. Once I select and confirm, you'll see that that shows now that the current snapshot and the default snapshot are the same. I have other options here, other views, as well as other actions. I can take new snapshots up above. I can also use the log view to see all the different changes that have occurred in config drift. And if I want to check out any particular one of them, I just select it, and I can take a look at the entries for it or download the entries by simply selecting the icon on the right. Here I can see the activity log for that particular snapshot as it was taken. I can do this for as many devices as I want. Over the lifetime of my network, and by using the set of default snapshots and a library of the current snapshots that have been taken, I can keep track of the network state over time for my network, and then take remediation actions using the model editor and other Glueware functionality. Once I'm done with all of that, I can take and create an audit report that I can send to my audit and compliance group that will show all of the information related to my nodes. As you can see here, the information is listed by node, what the IP address is, the current state, the last capture, and the appropriate timestamp for it. So this is a very handy means of keeping track of the audit functionality necessary of configuration drift.